resistance is futile.
Boldly going where no show has gone before. This is The Week in Geek with David D. Squared and Brian Held. Heard live on News Talk 99.5 WRNO and the iHeartRadio app. Here are your hosts, Brian Held and D. Squared.
Greetings, people of Earth. This is The Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. I'm your host, D. Squared, along with Brian Held is on assignment. So once again, joining me in the studio is my man David Grubb of Hard in the Paint with David Grubb. You're going to hear that on our sister stations Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. till noon on Sportsville, baby. David, what's kicking, chicken?
Kicking the show, man, and I like the fact that you invited me back. That means I didn't embarrass myself.
Apparently not.
The last time.
No, you did not. You did very well. Actually, we even got a phone call or a voice message on our website, so twigradio.com. You can go there to check it out. So, apparently the person was intrigued by our conversations on the gritty, dark, depressing nature of DC movies, with the exception of Shazam and Aquaman.
Yes.
Which I have now seen.
You've seen Aquaman.
I've finally seen Aquaman.
Now, it's about 20 minutes too long, am I right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
It's a little bit, because all the traveling to all the different locations, it's like they could have compressed that, because it's like two complete journeys going on simultaneously, and there's just so much of the traveling part of it that it's like...
Right. It was like Lord of the Rings, we're walking. All right, let me lay out the show for you real quick. We'll kick it off with top nerd news here shortly, followed by our boy Scungy with his pick of the week. We may or may not have an interview. We are efforting that right now, and then we'll wrap up the show. Probably not as we always do, because Brian's out on assignment, so I'm very confused as to how the night will go. But you know what? Hey, just stick around. So let's kick it off as we always do. And now, your top nerd news stories from around the world, brought to you by the Viridian Tea Company. Find them on Etsy. And now, your top nerd news stories. Funny side note, Kimberly Richardson of the Viridian Tea Company, she's moving from Memphis down here to New Orleans. And she had a huge table full of tea. I mean, copious, enormous amounts of tea, and I commented, I'm like, this looks like the NOPD's evidence table. It's just 50 kilos of pure uncut tea leaves. But if you like tea, go check it out at Etsy.
All of them wouldn't make it back to lockup.
No.
All of them wouldn't make it to the cage.
The tea would just magically disappear. Yeah, there we go. All right, so kicking us all off tonight, David, let's jump right into it. The Morbius trailer dropped about a month ago, and this wasn't on my radar, mostly because I don't like Jared Leto. His Joker has just turned me off, and I don't care. But I saw the trailer, and now I'm like quite impressed by how the movie might actually turn out. But then on top of that, you've got a situation where it's going to join up with the Tom Holland Spider-Man, and at the end of the trailer you got Toombs the Vulture showing up, and then in the back you've got a poster of Spider-Man that says murderer, and I don't know, and Leto, he's such a goth, depressing looking dude that, he could play Morbius probably with his eyes closed. He's probably not acting, he's probably just himself in this movie. I'm not sure. Your thoughts?
I mean, he's a pretty boy too.
He is.
He's a real pretty boy, but his method is out on the. I mean, he's one of those actors who just gets
Blade Runner. He was good in Blade Runner. I'll give him that, man.
Look, he's in one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen. Darren Aronofsky, and I don't know why the name is escaping me right now, but it's him and Marlon Wayans and the one I talk about with their drug addicts.
Yeah.
Like, I can't watch that movie all the way through anymore, and he's fantastic in that. And he was good in Fight Club. I really liked him in Fight. And he took that beating, which was kind of fun too. But he's done some very and he did that movie about John David Chapman who killed
good Lord,
John Lennon.
Oh yeah, right.
So and
you watch a lot of artsy movies, man.
Look,
I am lowbrow entertainment. Like
I go all over
I'm
the
like
place.
Ace Ventura level. That's where
I go all over the place. I try to stay in the zeitgeist.
Ooh, big word.
Yes, but I'm really intrigued by that because it seems very ambitious. Are they going to bring together, even though Mysterio is dead, are you going to have that full Spider-Man's rogue of villains that appears in these films, and you start adding them? Because even at the end of Venom, there was the allusion to oh, jeez, why my name's just killing me.
It's been a long day.
What's his name? What's it? The red one.
Carnage.
Carnage. Jeez.
Yeah.
So I mean, they've done these allusions to all these other characters.
Right.
So I wonder how ambitious and how long this is going to play out.
Well, I think they're going to try to meld all those together. I mean, Venom took place in San Francisco. Obviously, this is taking place across the country in New York. But obviously, at the end of Spider-Man, this is another topic I forgot to put on the show sheet, dude, was the Skrull invasion at the end of, Far From Home.
Yep.
You had the Skrull, the heroic Skrull, which is so funny to me, too, because I think Brian and I talked about this last week, where it's like you have the happy-go-lucky Skrulls, but then, now it looks like you're going to be outing a bunch of Skrulls that were superheroes that have been trying to take over the Earth, and it's just like, all right, what's really going on here? And so I am curious as to how that plays out, but Marvel has done what DC tried to do. And Marvel has just become the innovator, where they're able to interconnect and take all these stories and weave them together almost masterfully. I mean, it has been a pleasure to watch what Marvel has done with some of their movies. And so seeing those little background things, people want to call them Easter eggs and all that. I get the fact that, people want to call them that. But that's story continuity. I mean, they're putting that in there. They're calling him a murderer. And then the people of New York City, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, is now, the mass murderer Spider-Man. And I'm digging that.
I mean, that part still is like sticks in my neck a little bit, because I thought that how would they have that information that fast, and why would they fall? But that's
because I just rewatched Far From Home again recently. Mm-hmm. It was shortly after I watched Aquaman. So what it boils down to is, like, several times Mysterio saying that people will believe whatever you tell them after the blip, because people no longer have to suspend disbelief.
True.
It's like people disappeared
for
5 years and then came back, and they know superheroes and aliens and gods and monsters all exist. So it's just like, Spider-Man tried to kill you people. Oh, yeah, screw that Spider-Man guy. He's a bad one. I've been telling you for years. And so they said that a few times in the movie, and then they showed how masterful they were with working on the fly with his illusions and stuff. So that's good storytelling if you're paying attention, like watching those little things. I'm not.
Are you saying something to me?
I am not. Maybe I am. I don't know, subliminal messages here. But no, if you hear and see some of these things, because they are quick. It's like a lot of times people write these scripts. It's like, all right, how do we kill something? Well, if maybe in the first scene of the movie we reference that salt kills slugs, or, mayonnaise kills vampires, later on when they're fighting in the mayonnaise factory and the vampire falls in the vat of mayonnaise, you understand because they alluded to it in the first scene.
Now, what I will say is this. You remember when Marvel they put all the movie posters on one poster. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So you knew the order. Everything was coming in for years. And I think that was that's Disney. That's very Disney.
Mm-hmm.
That's that kind of, we are going to do it this way, because they have all those things planned out. The ties in at the parks, the ties in with the television. They knew they were already planning Disney Plus.
The Disney housing complexes, and how we eat our breakfast and wash ourselves and go to
soon
work.
We all become Disney automatons.
I for one welcome the Disney overlords.
Disney overlords. But I think that's been the difference, is that Disney came out and had a plan from day one, whereas DC has been trying to be a little bit more reactionary, which is weird because DC set the template for all of these, and a lot of what Marvel did in the follow-up was coming off of the coattails of what DC set up in the early 80s and the late 80s with Superman and Batman.
Right. And then so, I think, they stepped away, and, look, you and I talked about it last time you were on the show, where it is a grittier, darker version over there in DC world, but that's fine, but it's just like, I think I'm more upset about the fact that they couldn't keep that continuity going, that they had so many, maybe just too many hands in the kitchen, because you also think about, like, with the Star Wars movies and a lot of falling out, a lot of directors exiting because of creative differences. But, if a director comes in, even like with the Han Solo movies, they wanted to make it like 21 Jump Street, I could see Marvel going, no, man, get out of here with this stuff, because here's our roadmap. Here's our track record of success. Your idea is not going to work. They'll work within the parameters and let people, do stuff. But there's a formula. They figured it out, just like Nickelback figured out how to make platinum albums and make bank. Disney figured it out too.
Yeah, I mean, what you want to give people is enough familiarity that they walk in and they are the ones who are hardcore folks, recognize the characters, and you give them enough that they feel satisfied and that you're true to the character.
Yeah.
But you also want to give a narrative that transfers to people who have never watched it.
Right.
And you give enough of those connections, and that's the huge thing, like you talked about. When you provide those connections, you are selling another ticket before they walk out of the theater.
Right.
Because they want to see, okay, well, I liked this. I want to find out the next part, even if they're not hardcore, comic book folks.
Right. David Grubb, that's Brian is on assignment. David Grubb is sitting in his chair for us tonight. Now, David, last time you were on the show, you were wrong, and you were wrong, and I'm just so happy that you were wrong about Birds of Prey. And it's a clunker, and nobody wants to go see this turd burglar of a movie, even though I kind of want to go see it.
Have you seen it?
No,
see,
I'm not
you saying it's bad. You haven't seen it.
Because I can read the tea leaves, and I can read the trades. Money talks, and they ain't making no money, bro.
But we've seen, but look, how many movies that we really enjoyed that at the time were flops? And I haven't seen it either, so I don't want to say for sure. But I'm saying there had a lot of movies that were flops at the time and then became cult classics because they just were either released at the wrong time or people weren't ready for a concept.
There are some things, but you and I both have kids. So your daughter, there's a lot of gratuitous sex, violence, and vulgar language. Your daughter's what, 8?
11.
11? All right. So my kids just turned 14, and I got a 6-year-old. I could bring the 14-year-old, but I mean, do you want to bring your kids there? And a lot of parents are kind of wrestling with that dilemma. Who like, yeah, you know what, I want to go see that, but I'm not going to bring my kid to it.
Is
like
that
the whole
the flaw
Deadpool.
of the marketing, though?
It could be. It very well could be.
If you paint it as they know girls love Harley Quinn for a different reason than guys.
Yes,
love
absolutely.
Harley Quinn. And that there's a large number of young girls. Mm-hmm. I mean, my daughter dressed up as Harley Quinn a couple Halloweens ago. That's her. That's one of her favorite characters. Yeah. She loves the cartoons.
And she's a new character. I mean, by comic book standards, by comic book standards, she's pretty new.
I mean, like we really didn't become aware of her until Batman the Animated Series. That's when I really started. Okay, this is a character.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the marketing. And we've seen this with comic movies before. If you don't market it for the right audience, if you give people unrealistic expectations of what they're going in to see, if they think they're seeing a kids movie and it's an adult movie, or if they think that it's geared to adults and it ends up being a very simple type kids movie, people run from that in droves.
Yeah, but I mean, the pre-sales didn't do well. They only did $35 million in their opening weekend, which is a flop by pretty much any tentpole movie project. So, but now here's the thing, and I'm going to give them a little bit of slack too, because this sort of rolls into our next story, is that the overseas dollars are shrinking away because of the coronavirus. Right. So a lot of these movie houses have closed up shop. People don't want to go out there because, as we talked about this week on your show, Hard in the Paint, where you're seeing a huge influx of cases that have exploded, more deaths, and they're running out of ways to test people now too. So the numbers that they've given us are probably much higher because they ran out of the test kits. So there's no telling people
and
have
things
this.
That are open, people aren't like, if you don't have it, you're less likely to go outside now.
Right.
If you live in those places,
you try to stop breathing and just hold your breath as long as you can.
I would be interested, Joe, just to wonder. And again, it may have no impact, but just the wondering as a thought about the release time. To release it in February, was that
they put their 50-50 shot movies, because they've had movies that have done really well there in the past, and then others have been complete and utter bombs. But I had the list last week too, because it was like 3 or 4 that did really well, and then 3 or 4 that really just kind of stunk the joint up. And look, maybe this will become a cult classic. Maybe that's too strong a word, but maybe it'll be something more enjoyable in the home theater.
I didn't see the blitz. You know what I mean? And usually for this kind of thing, there's some kind of tie-in as well, and there wasn't that. So it feels like maybe even the studio itself kind of downplayed it. Did it feel like that's you, that it just, like, maybe they thought after some initial things, like, we're not going to put more, what they felt is good money after bad?
Maybe so. It's possible. I think you've got a lot of people over there at DC working at cross purposes. I mean, and that's why you're seeing these disjointed movies come out, because they got too many hands in the film room, too many cooks in the kitchen, and it's coming out weird, and it shows. It shows that there's been different thoughts and people's personalities get imprinted on those movies. And so, yeah, but the coronavirus thing, moving on from that into gaming, though, right now, they had an Overwatch League that had some tournaments scheduled in China that all has been canceled. And now we're starting to see a decline in potential, I guess, exported goods. The Nintendo Switch, we're supposedly the West, meaning us, we'll still be getting some of those, but a lot of the game developers have had to shut down because they don't want people congregating in large numbers. And you've got guys and gals who are there doing, the coding in cramped quarters. You're doing all this work where it's like, you know what, stay home. If you can work from home, great. But if not, so they're already having to push back and delay a lot of these games that were slated to come out, as well as the creation of the consoles, like the Xbox
Series X and the PS5.
Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to push that back.
I mean, those are dates that those companies have, and they know what their anticipated sales are for those
E3 conferences and all those things where they make a whole the dude with the black turtleneck situation comes out and tells you about all the great games and movies they're going to be making that are available.
The market is so competitive. It's so competitive, so you can't lose time. And then and depending on those launch dates, how far they get pushed back, you lose those pre-Christmas sales and things like that.
Yeah,
that's a huge effect on a lot of people's bottom lines, not just the production at Microsoft or at Nintendo or Sony, but you're talking about every one of those stores that's anticipating those sales numbers, which brings in their ancillary sales. You're selling games, you're selling gift cards, you're selling all those other things when you get people in the store. So yeah, that's a huge domino effect.
Well, look, coming up next, I got my boy Scungy with his pick of the week, which is brought to you by GameStop. And those, cats, if you don't have the games and the consoles from which to sell the customers, if you haven't been to the GameStop, I don't know who hasn't not been to the GameStop, but I mean, it's like a cool ass toy store now too, because you walk in, they got all the collectibles and everything else. And I myself have made very poor choices going into a GameStop for one game and walking out with armloads of crap that I didn't really need. But I'm like, I don't care. I'm a grown ass man, David. I buy toys if I want.
That's right. You can stay up late and eat cereal for dinner and all those things.
That's exactly correct. All right, before we get out of here, the one Spider-Man story I forgot to do last time, Kraven the Hunter.
I love Kraven the Hunter.
Dude, and so it's cool because the reason that people are thinking that he might be popping up soon is that Spider-Man's now a murderer, and Kraven is the greatest hunter in the world. Who do you find to find a superhero spider? Kraven the Hunter. I think that'd be pretty kick-ass. And then you got Morbius coming up against him. And then you've got Toomes as the Vulture showing up in the Morbius movie. This is setting up to be freaking awesome, dude.
Yeah, and I first of all, I if Joe Manganiello ends up being Kraven, that size, that huge, just because you don't see a lot of really tall guys get superhero parts. It just doesn't happen because most actors are short. So you get a guy that big and that physically menacing. And just Kraven is, he's not just physical because he's not a superhero. He's not a superhuman.
Yeah, right.
But he's so smart, so cunning, so evil. And I think that's a great character. There's so many fringe, so to speak, characters in the Marvel universe. I loved that in Spider-Man in the multiverse that you had Tombstone, and even just for a quick minute, because he's such a compelling character, and I'd love to see them explore that more. So that it's so ripe and so fertile ground for Marvel.
That's kind of what I'm hoping they do, sort of with like there was discussions about with Morbius and all the monster characters that they have out there. So that'd be pretty cool too. So we'll see. David, always a pleasure. Thank you so much,
You're
man.
very welcome, my friend.
All right, stick around. Scungy's coming up next with his pick of the week. This is The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. You'll find your Spider-Man.
My name is Optimus Prime, and you are listening to The Week in Geek. Autobots, transform and roll out.
Welcome back into The Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. I'm your host, D Squared, along with... Brian's not in there. Brian's still on assignment. So let's go to Brian's favorite segment of the show.
I am not what you would call a handsome man.
Scungy's Pick of the Week is brought to you by GameStop and ThinkGeek.com.
Scungy's Pick of the Week.
He might be an idiot savant.
Woohoo!
Scungy, what's shaking, Bacon?
Not a lot. So how is it with the inmates running the asylum?
I don't know. It's just crazy talk here. Putting us in charge, well, hey, whatever. You know what? Sometimes we don't need adult supervision, all right? All right?
Sometimes. Just sometimes.
Sometimes. All right, Scungy, let's jump right into it. What you got for us this week?
So we're going to go old school this week.
Okay.
We're going to talk about Dragon's Lair trilogy.
Wait, come again?
Dragon's Lair.
Like the one that was at Chuck E. Cheese when I was a kid and it cost like $2 per game and you could barely get across the drawbridge? That Dragon's Lair?
That's that Dragon's Lair.
Okay. Wait. All right, well, tell me about it. What's going on?
Well, recently they actually came out with what's called the Dragon's Lair trilogy, which comes with 3 games. It comes with Dragon's Lair, Space Ace, and Dragon's Lair 2. Now, these are a series of games that came out starting back in 1983. These games were essentially cartoons that were drawn by Don Bluth, who's the man who he used to work for Disney, but he did his own, in the 80s, he moved and did his own thing, and he made movies like American Tail and The Wonderful Secret of Nim and Land Before Time, which makes me cry every single time.
God, such a pudding.
I know I am. But they had this unbelievable idea of let's mix a cartoon and a video game together. Back in 1983, you're like, how the hell is that going to work? Because, they didn't have the technology like they do now.
No, right, man. I mean, it was almost like choose your own adventure, too.
Yeah, so the way the game plays is now, depending on the difficulty that is set on the game.
Oh, right.
You either get flashes that show up on the screen, and that indicates which direction you want to push the controller in, or if the sword flashes, hitting the sword. Or there was a difficulty setting that didn't have any of that, which is what most arcades put on there. Now, This was kind of unprecedented at the time because this game, you got to imagine, this game was put out on Laserdisc. This game cost a lot of money because the cabinet would have not one, but 2 monitors. You have one monitor that everybody watched, that the person playing watched, but they had another monitor on top so people in the arcade can watch the person play and basically watch through this cartoon.
Yeah.
But because it cost so much, this is one of the first games, if not the first game, that cost 50 cents to play.
Yeah, I remember seeing like advertisements for it in the freaking newspaper. I remember, like it's like, ooh, and then you cut out this coupon and you get 4 free tokens when you buy 80 million pizzas at Chuck E. Cheese.
Well, they needed to do stuff like that because, like we said, this was an expensive machine because it was new technology. Nobody had ever done, and they didn't want to go. They didn't even know if it was going to work or not.
Right.
So the way the game plays, it's the earliest form of what we call quick time events now in video games.
Right.
Prompt comes up, you press it, and the action happens. So it's like a movable, like a playable cutscene.
Yeah, I hated it when Resident Evil did that. I think it was like Resident Evil 4. Whenever you went into it was like Latvia or whatever.
It was the one where you went to the European countryside.
Yes.
All the, everybody's like, oh, they're not zombies. They're just really crazy Europeans.
Well, it's so funny, too, because when I first played that game, I had jumped from a PlayStation to an Xbox. So I was so used to the PlayStation controllers at the time that I kept screwing it up, and I started getting so pissed because it's like, they're all in the same places. But, when you jump from a PlayStation to an Xbox, there was a little bit of a shock, and then I was just shocked by the playable cutscenes. I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, because that's something it wasn't used a lot.
No.
God of War was basically one of the first ones that pushed that forward a lot, but still it wasn't adopted heavily until like the PlayStation 4 era, really, almost.
Yeah. All right,
So Dragon's Lair was the first one for that. Now they had a couple of sequels to this game because obviously it was so popular. Anybody who walked in the arcades in the 80s, they heard this attract. And not only did they have, like, when you have an attract mode for most games, this actually had a trailer running on the attract mode telling you, like, play as Dirk the Daring and go through the castle and blah, blah, blah. And so you're like, I want to find out what happened. So you go run over to find out. But they made two sequels. They made Space Ace, which came out kind of at the same time. They were making Dragon's Lair and they were making Space Ace, which is a space story about this guy named Ace, or I can't remember what the other name is because he becomes like a big buff guy and then a small weakling.
Yes, now I remember.
And you go through and you're fighting the bad guys, and it's the same exact gameplay. And then it was made in 1988, but I don't think it was released in the arcades until 91. Dragon's Lair 2 Time Warp.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
That one you have Dirk the Daring going through different time periods trying to rescue Princess Daphne again, which Princess Daphne, that was the most risque cartoon character in the history of, arcade.
It was. Good times.
So, but these games, they were groundbreaking when they came out because we had never seen anything like it before. It was the first time that you could play a movie, basically, and it paved the way for different games and different art styles. Cuphead, like I said, the God of War, anything that's an interactive cutscene, all started because of this game and these guys at Don Bluth Studios and whatnot.
That's so crazy. So, all right, so they released a trilogy. Do you have to go buy the cabinet and pay $1 per game?
No, you don't, and that's the beautiful thing about it. So the Dragon's Lair trilogy, as they call it, have a couple of extra modes to it. So they're going to make it a little easier for you if you want to. You can add extra lives to it.
Nice.
So you don't have just the standard 3 lives. They have, at the bottom of the screen, they have an arrow and an action icon. So the arrow lights up. You don't have to actually look for where you are in the map on the screen. Mm-hmm. The arrow lights up that says up, down, left, right. So if you want to easily play through it, you can.
Okay.
Or you can just watch the cartoon.
All right, fair enough.
And you can set it up differently because in the arcades, it was random. The way that the game played was completely random. Other than walking into that first bridge.
Yeah.
Everything else, every room was a different way. Like you would go into a hallway one day, or the next time you played, you would go into a swinging ropes that are catching fire and whatnot. It just depended.
Right.
But this, you can either play it like that, or if you can go straight through the way that it was drawn.
Nice. I like that. I don't think I ever have seen the end of the game. I don't think I ever I don't think I ever bothered to look it up on YouTube either. I think I was just kind of whatever.
You never thought you ever would because it would cost $75,000 in quarters just to make it because this game is hard.
Well, I pretty much spent that much money on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I guess I had to choose one. I chose Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well, that one was cool because if you had 4 friends, it was one of the coolest games you've ever played in your life.
I'm still trying to get that 4th friend, that ever elusive 4th friend. I only got 2 or 3.
You randomly throwing pizza at somebody in the Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz going, "Come and play this."
Those are the modes that, or you could just watch the whole cartoon by itself.
Or you can just watch the cartoon by yourself. If you don't want to play it or anything like that, it's got a thing that says "Watch Movie." You can watch it and just enjoy it that way, and you don't have. And it's a little bit easier because it doesn't have as much of the clips.
Yeah,
because when you enter in an action, it kind of clips the video a little bit because if you're going to die or if you're not going to die, which by the way, playing Dragon's Lair, watching the death scenes is more entertaining than actually watching the movie.
Yeah, right.
Because there was more variety in how you died in that game. That was just so funny.
Yeah, that skeleton just dropping down with his helmet on, his goofy ass little helmet.
And it always looked like he was pissed at you. It's like you screwed up.
Thanks for getting me killed, butthead.
Exactly. So you can just watch it if you want to do it that way. And then there's some extra videos like how to draw Dirk the Daring and different little things that they added on extras in this collection.
That's pretty nifty. I like that. I mean, because I guess because it's such a nostalgic game that, like, if they did it for Call of Duty, I'd be like, whatever, who cares? But I this would probably be something I would watch through and listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, you want to harken back to that. I mean, it is the whole nostalgia thing, and they're doing this a lot more with older games now, and I really like that because games are an art form, and if they don't do stuff like that, you're number one, you have the risk of losing some of these games and never being able to bring them back because you might not be able to find the code or, the original material was destroyed or whatnot.
Right.
But then it's also, for another generation to see, like, look, this is what we used to play when we were your age.
No, look, dude, I've let my my oldest try Atari and all the other games that I've gotten like for the Xbox. He's like, wait, you only get 3 lives? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you got to give me a quarter every time you lose all 3 guys. He's like, that's not fun. I'm like, welcome to my world, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Where? Well, look, tell me, I guess price and platform then, really.
So it's on the PlayStation 4, it's on the Xbox One, and it's on the Switch. I believe you can download it. I believe it's downloadable on the PC on Steam as well.
Really?
Here's the beautiful thing. It's only $20.
Jesus, really?
Yeah, it's $20, and a lot of times you can find it on sale. I actually bought it on sale for $10.
Where the hell did you get that? How did you get that?
On the PlayStation Store.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a sale on the PlayStation Store, and it was $10, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to spend $10 to play Dragon's Lair because God knows I spent more than that in one sitting trying to beat it.
So it's available for Xbox and all that. What about the dirty PC?
Yeah, like I said, it's more. I'm pretty sure it's available on Steam.
Boo. Oh well.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, yay, way to go.
You have
PC.
to throw a bone to Brian every once in a while.
No, we don't. All right, Scungy. Well, I guess that's going to about do it. Happy Mardi Gras. I don't know. We'll figure out what we're doing next Sunday because I don't even know if we can get to the station. So
I thought we were going to be laying in the street inebriated.
Probably lying in the gutter somewhere covered in like coconuts and doubloons. That actually sounds like
How is that different from any other Tuesday?
The coconuts. That's about it.
The coconuts. Okay.
Coconuts. That's the only difference. So yeah, because I don't know. For some reason, bars don't accept doubloons as currency. So I don't know. It's their loss, not mine.
You know what? If we were run by pirates, they would.
See, there we go. Wait, we used to be run by pirates. All right, we have gone way off the track. All right, Scungy, I'm not going to fire you this week, but get the hell out of here. We got a show to wrap up now, bud.
Later.
Stick around. This is The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
Wonderful friends, it is I, Starfire of Tamaran, here to tell you you are listening to The Week in Geek on the radio. This is the radio, yes?
This is Brian Held with the Week in Geek radio show on News Talk 99.5 WRNO, and I am joined by author Jim Butcher. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Brian.
So, I got to ask out of the gate because I know everyone is super excited. How's it been for you to finish up on Peace Talks?
A lot of work, a great relief. It's really left me looking forward to writing more, which is that isn't always what happens. Often when I finish one book, I'll be like, oh, I'm so glad to be done with this, to be out of this world. I can go somewhere else and do something. But I finished this one, I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to get on to the next one right away.
So, I mean, can you give us a little bit of a primer? Is there a lot of time lapse between the last book, this one, or are we just right into the action?
No, in the story, only a few months have passed since the last book, and the big problem is that all the supernatural nations are getting together for a summit to try and arrange a lasting peace between the Fomor and all the accorded nations, and they all get together and they have a nice dinner and sing Kumbaya, and everything works out smoothly.
Now, was it difficult? I know you had a bit of a break between the last book. Was it difficult to get back in that headspace?
It was for a long time, less because of the time that had passed, and more because of I just had some changes in my life that were really rough that I had to adjust to. But eventually, things got smoothed out again. I got a solid workplace set up again. I got a dog. My previous dog had died. I didn't even realize he was a therapy dog until I lost him. And then by the time my life finally settled down enough that I could be a good dog dad, I got another dog, and all of a sudden things were going just smooth as anything, you know. So I'm very pleased by that.
No, that's cool. Now, do you get a chance to still do any role playing or anything like that? I know, didn't you LARP too?
Oh yeah. I still LARP occasionally, and I run a role playing game at home. Just kind of your standard evening D&D game that we do every other Tuesday night. You know.
So you're not playing the Dresden Files RPG?
Oh God, no! I'm like the one person on the planet who absolutely cannot play that game. Because I'm like a power gaming weasel, right? So, I mean, imagine trying to GM me in the Dresden Files game. No, it is that way, and if necessary, I'll write it that way for the next book, Mr. Game Master. You know, it's kind of my attitude. But yet, if I'm the GM, too much like work.
That's fair. Now, I want to get a little bit serious for a second. On our show, we don't talk religion, we don't talk politics. And I saw recently a tweet where a fan had tried to compare some political motivations to Dresden. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Okay. I mean, if you say so. Dresden has very little time for politics. Dresden's attitude is more or less, are you human? Yes? Okay, good. That's all I have time for. I'm on your team. That's all I have time for.
No, and that's cool. That's cool because, politics just wreck everything. It's crazy.
They do. They're poisonous.
Yeah. All right. When you did the Codex Alera series, right, that was, of course, on a bet, right? Have you done any other kind of bets like that?
Well, the Dresden Files itself started off as an attempt to prove to my writing instructor how wrong she was about everything she was trying to teach me. I had been working with a writing instructor named Debbie Chester at the University of Oklahoma's professional writing program, and she had been trying for several years to convince me of all kinds of very necessary things that you need to know as a writer, and I'd been paying her very little attention because I had a bachelor's degree in English literature. With an emphasis in creative writing, whereas she had merely published 40 novels. So what could she possibly know? So one semester I decided to prove her wrong, and the genius way I chose to do it was I was going to do everything she told me to. I was going to fill out all her little forms and do all her little character worksheets and do all these outlines, and then she would see what terrible cookie-cutter pablum crap emerged from that kind of process. And I wrote the first book of the Dresden Files, which showed her.
Oh, well, showed her now, right?
No. She just looks at me now, and she looks at me now occasionally and goes, "Uh-huh," and I'll just be like, "Yes, yeah, I know, you were right."
No, that's fair. That's fair. All right. So on that vein, the Twig crew, right, is talking, and we want to posit another bet of two disparate, series that you can write a book on. You ready?
All right.
All right. G.I. Joe.
Okay.
And Netflix is a Christmas Prince. You think you can do that?
Netflix is a Christmas what?
Prince.
Netflix the Christmas Prince? And G.I. Joe? I'd have to think about that one a while.
Yeah.
That's so derpy. It's going to stick in my head. I actually am going to think about that. Thanks a lot, man.
I'm here for you, man. Look, I'm giving you more fodder. You said in your panel that you had enough ideas that'll keep you writing until you're 128, right?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
All right, I just want to keep you alive longer is all I'm trying to do. It's a service.
Oh, thank you very much. Very kind of you.
So now that Peace Talks is in the can, and we're going to get it soon, what's on your slate right now? What are you working on?
Well, right now I'm in the editing process, and we're talking about stuff like publicity and stuff like that. I'm doing all the parts of the writer's job that are not actually writing. So I got to get all that out of the way and cleaned out. And once I do that, then the next thing I'll do is I'll go start on the second book, or the second book in the Cinder Spires series. The first one was called The Aeronaut's Windlass. This one's called the Olympian Affair, and we'll get back into that world of airships and spires and mist and talking cats and etherealists and all kinds of fun things.
All right, cool. So is it going to be a back and forth type deal, maybe a Dresden Files book and then that series and back and forth?
Ideally, I'll do a Dresden book and then a non-Dresden book every year. Practically, it tends to work out every 7 to 8 months that the next one comes out, but that's the schedule I'm going back to, yes.
All right, that's fair. And Longshot Author on Twitter is where folks can find you, right?
Yeah, you can find me at Longshot Author on Twitter, where I am there occasionally because Twitter's become very political, and that's poisonous. I like to avoid poison where possible. Or you can also check out JimButcherOnline.com. That's my personal website, and where you can find all the information and news that you might want to know about the next Dresden Files book or anything else I'm working on.
It's been such a pleasure to have you for a few minutes, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks a lot, man.
That was Brian Held at DragonCon with Jim Butcher, author of the Dresden Files. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show with This Week in Geek History. You're listening to The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
Yeah, this is Sam J. Jones, Flash Gordon, and you are listening to The Week in Geek. You better be listening. I will hunt you down, and I will find you.
Welcome back. This is The Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. As always, though, we want to strongly urge you to check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Week in Geek. Check out our website at twigradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at Twig Radio, and the Instagram's The Week in Geek. Now, Brian, how can people listen to this lovely show?
Well, if you missed any part of tonight's show or you want to catch your favorite part again, you can find us on Spreaker.com or download Spreaker for your smartphone or tablet. We're also on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, the iHeartRadio app, and at WRNO.com.
Stitcher. I always think of it like some bad horror flick. You know?
This Week in Geek History.
We're sending you back to the future! Yes! Oh my God!
This Week in Geek History is brought to you by Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid by Nancy Hansen, read by Brian Held. Available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. This Week in Geek History.
Yes! Oh my gosh!
Da-na-na, da-na-na. Wow.
All right, Dave.
I heard the guy who reads that book is also in NCIS.
Yes, he is.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 episodes now.
We should get him on the show.
Well, yeah. I'll see what I can do to book him.
Cool, thanks.
All right, first one out of the gate. You've got to guess it. February 12th, 1993. Here's a little clue. There's some time travel involved, all right? Starring Bill Murray, Andy McDowell, Chris Elliott, and directed by Harold Ramis.
It's Groundhog Day.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. So apparently we're supposed to have 6 more weeks of winter, right? The groundhog saw his shadow.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
Who cares what that rat thinks?
Kind of warm down here right now.
It's not a nutria.
That's true. All right.
Do we have a Punxsutawney nutria? A Dalmatian nutria?
We might. We'll have to look that up. All right. February 13th in the year 2000. The last original Peanuts comic strip appears in newspapers one day after Charles M. Schultz dies.
Wow. Thanks for bringing the show up.
Yeah, well, I just, it's a historical item. I put it in there. Sorry.
Now I'm going to go cry.
There you go.
Okay, I'm better now.
All right, this one's getting interesting. February 14th, 2005.
Oh, that was a bad year.
Created by 3 former PayPal employees, YouTube is launched.
Oh, what? On February 14th, I'm expecting, what is that swipe right thing? Tinder or
Tinder.
something?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything in here for Tinder, I don't think.
Okay. So YouTube was created on Valentine's Day.
It was. And it's a juggernaut now.
Wait, is that the guy who was like who went to the damn zoo and filmed My Day at the San Diego Zoo? Because we had that in This Week in Geek History once.
We did, absolutely.
So they created it, and then they went to the zoo?
Apparently.
What's a lovely day to go to the zoo? Happy Valentine's Day, my love. Look at Nutria.
Nice.
What's next?
February 16th, 1923. Archaeologist Howard Carter opens the sealed doorway to the tomb of King Tutankhamun.
Oh.
Yes.
And then Al Capone's vault. Al Capone's
glove compartment. Yeah.
Roadmaps. Supplies.
Yes. I love UHF.
I know.
If you haven't seen UHF with Weird Al Yankovic, go watch it.
Toy Fair. Toy Fair was this weekend.
Was it?
Yeah. And Funko made Weird Al Pops.
Oh,
There's
that's
Weird
right.
Al Pop from Because I'm Fat. I'm fat. Yeah. So it's like a Michael Jackson mashup with Weird Al.
Interesting.
Must have.
All right, go get it.
Google.
All right, next on my list, February 17th, 1936. The Phantom, a comic strip created by Lee Falk, debuts. So, do you remember the Phantom?
No, but you're gonna quote it right now and go.
Well, he was the Phantom is the first fictional hero to wear a skin tight costume.
Purple.
Yes, and was the first shown in a mask with no visible pupils.
Hey, Brian, what evil lurks in the heart of men?
The shadow knows what
evil
lurks. Oh,
the shadow, the Phantom.
Yes.
I'm getting them all screwed up.
You are.
Wow, I suck. Moving on.
All right. Last one on my list is also February 17th in 1996. NASA launches the first in the Discovery series of spacecraft, the NEAR spacecraft, aboard a Delta II rocket. NEAR stands for Near Earth Asteroid Rendezvous. So, what?
Asteroid Rendezvous.
You are terrible and incorrigible.
Yes.
And all of those things. We need to get a NASA scientist on.
We do, man. It's been a long time, man.
It has. We need to check up on Juno. All right,
that's the one that's got Lego figures on it, right?
Right.
Was it?
No, I don't know what. Oh, yeah, you're right. I think it does. Yes,
he was on the show.
He was.
And
all right.
Now we've got cars floating in space. We've got dead satellites, garbage, and cars now.
Right.
Thanks, SpaceX.
All right, you ready for some birthdays?
Sorry, no. Okay, yes, I'm ready.
All right, on the 12th, Michael Ironside. He was in Top Gun, Total Recall, Starship Troopers. He was the...
he's a bad actor. He's always the bad villain.
Yeah, well, He was Razanak in Starship Troopers. Razanak was Roughnecks?
No, Rat Chicks.
Rat Chicks,
Rat Chicks, Roughnecks.
There you go. Highlander 2, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, on the 13th, Henry Rollins.
From the, like Henry Rollins, the Rollins band?
Yeah, but he was also in Johnny Mnemonic, Heat, Lost Highway, Jack Frost, Bad Boys 2.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Johnny Mnemonic was good. It had a friggin'
talking dolphin.
Yeah, talking dolphin.
A psychic dolphin, or whatever the hell it was.
It was a cybernetic dolphin.
Reboots. We need a Johnny Mnemonic reboot.
Oh, that'd be funny. On the 14th, Simon Pegg.
Yay!
Yeah,
he's in the new Mission Impossible that no one wants to see.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
You're
not alone.
Yeah. On the 15th, Matt Groening from The Simpsons fame. He started with that comic strip Life in Hell. Remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, it was the weird bunny-looking thing. And
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. On the 16th, LeVar Burton.
Hey, all right. Jordan.
And on the 18th, Molly Ringwald, which somebody tried to check my geek credentials recently and said, hey, have you ever heard of a movie called Space Hunter? And I'm like, Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone? And one of Molly Ringwald's early appearances? That movie? And they're like, yeah, you got it.
Just laying the lumber on them.
Of course.
All right, download the show, like it, share it, do all that jazz. Till next time, keep your nerd flag raised high.
GFL.